Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and good evening, and welcome to the podcast with Crossroads. Steve's got me here and started. I can see him. Are you going to do a quick hello, Steve, and then say total bye and I'll carry on?
Sure, yeah. Don't forget, guys. I'm sorry I can't. We were going to do the question and answers tonight, but what we will do, we will kind of like when I get Wendy on again, I promise you we'll do it then. It's just not that my carer usually comes in around about 8 o'clock, but she can't come. She can't come at that time. She's coming in now, and that puts me in a dilemma. So I'll be with you, but we've got no questions and answers. And what I will do is when we get Wendy back on, I will mention it. In the meantime, I will put you over to Wendy, and lovely person. I'll put you on to her. Thank you very much. Bye bye for now.
Thank you. Now, here's a test, everyone, for me in terms of how I managed to handle a situation that's somewhat unexpected. And for some people, it may cause a great deal of anxiety if they kind of go, oh, these things aren't going to happen right now. One of the things that often throws people is when there is a change of plan. And when there's a change of plan, it's kind of, oh dear, what do we do now? What are we expected to do? I got all set up for this. I'd not prepared because quite simply I wasn't expecting to do this. So let's make use of the situation and describe and think about how do we deal with. Now then, I'm trying to think what would be a nice topic. I am at present working uh, in a nursing home as as an interim manager. This means that I'm taking some time, and what it's doing is I'm going back into an area that I thought I'd never be working in again. And having done and written the book, and having done so much work around my spiritual development and the anxieties that I used to feel, what I am finding, which I find absolutely and utterly uh, intriguing, is that I'm not experiencing the same stress levels that I used to do, and it's very apparent with the home that I'm working with that there are lots of stressors that would have previously sent me into a state of uh, anxiety. It would have got me going, get me a drink. It'd have done me going, it would have reverted me to all of the less than helpful ways of actually managing stress, the less than helpful ways of managing anxiety. So, kind of, oh, I've had a long day. I've done lots and lots of conversations with lots of different people, having to give out. And what I find is when I'm meeting and speaking to new people, it is a giving experience as far as my energy is concerned, in that I am giving to the situation, both in what I'm saying and how I'm saying it, but also in the way that I am assessing the person's responses to me. When I know someone and I know what their likely responses are, it is so much easier to have a conversation, to do an explanation, and everything that goes with that. So it's about what my biggest surprise has been, as I said, is that I'm not as stressed as I was. So you kind of go, well, what's brought that? And I think a lot of it is to do with the processes that I've taken myself through on a spiritual and physical level, that mean that my body no longer my body and my brain don't respond in the same way that they used to the same stimulus, so that I am now operating as, for want of a better description, as a different person. I am no longer that person that used to get stressed. I am no longer that person who used to panic and worry. I am no longer the person who is having physiological reactions to the stress, like urgency of going to the toilet, like when pre-exam nerves. I'm not getting any of those kind of feelings anymore, which means that I'm much more able to link in to the parts of my brain that are responsible for what they call executive thinking. And it's this front part here. And it's up here where we do lots of thinking, where we do lots of problem solving, where we can access the different resources that and information and knowledge that we have to be able to bring it to bear upon a situation that we're in. And I think that there's one of the things that many of us don't realize, and me included, is it isn't about how intelligent you are. It isn't about how clever you are. It isn't about what you think about certain things. It's actually what is the state physically and emotionally that you are in that allows you to then access your resources. And I always remember, I don't know if I've told you about the time when I had an interview, and during that interview, um, the the interviewer, it was when I was going for a nurse teaching job, and I wasn't qualified to do the nurse teaching, so it was kind of I was going as going to go as an unqualified teacher and learn me cert ed, and I'd applied for the job and I'd done this amazing application form. And when I say it's an amazing application form, I wasn't kidding, because I read it again 6 months later and I thought, did I write that? And it was so when I went to the job interview, the tutor, the senior tutor, well, the director of nurse education is a posh title, but the senior person asking me the questions, she went and she asked me a question, and I kind of looked at her, and I knew that I knew the answer, but would my brain access that answer? And the answer was no. It's one of those that you can think about it and you can search for it and it just won't be there. And it's because physiologically, my body wasn't in the place that there would be a communication between my conscious mind and the mind that stores all of the information that you know out of conscious awareness. So I just kind of looked blank, and I went, I don't know, it's gone. I don't know. So we moved on to the next question, and with other questions that were easy, not well, any question's easy when you know the answer, isn't it? But other questions that I found that I could answer, and then it was okay. So Wendy, would you like to go and wait in the library until? Because they had another chap to interview. Would you like me to wait in the library and then come back and we'll tell you how you've gone on? And I went, yes, we'll do that. So it's kind of an interesting experience when you walk out of a door and the chap who's also in competition with the job that you've just applied for walks in. That did the polite thing as you always do and went, hello, good evening, good afternoon, and off I tootled to the nursing library. And as I'm in the nursing library, because I'd calmed down, because I wasn't on high alert anymore, so all of a sudden the kind of access to my thinking processes changed, and I was able to think of the answer. Now, what I didn't do at the time, which I would do nowadays, was I didn't write it down, because I thought, oh, I've got that answer. How amazing. I should have told her that, and this is the answer, and I can't remember what it was about because that's in many ways irrelevant. And so I get back. So I waited the half hour, reading books, looking at journals, and then I went back to the. It was longer than half an hour. It had been close to an hour. Went back to get the results of whether I got the job or not. So she could come back in, Wendy. Hello, and how are you? And me being me and little Miss Chatty and having to find something to speak about. And I went, oh, and I remembered the answer to that question. And then she went, oh, and what is it? And I just looked at her and I went, it's gone again. Because literally, as soon as I put myself back into the alert, stressful situation, my brain went on to alert, stressful thinking and disconnected from my being able to find the answer. I don't know if any of you've done that. You'll be familiar with this in a much simpler way of thinking about it, is when you can't remember somebody's name. So you're looking and you think, oh, I can't remember the name, can't think it. And somebody asks you a question about somebody and the name, and you kind of go, no, don't know, can't remember the name. And then like 10 minutes later, when you're not under the pressure of trying to remember, that you go, ping, and out comes the name. And it's really bizarre how our brain works, or chooses not to work at certain times, in that we have so much information stored in our consciousness. Now, there's many that would argue whether it's stored internally in the brain or externally elsewhere, and that we can then access it like radio signals, that it comes from wherever it's gone. Having said that, I do know of, having read of research whereby one of the interesting things is your brain doesn't have any pain nerve endings. So when they do brain surgery, the pain is about where they're cutting to get into it. But once they're into your brain, they can literally stimulate areas of the brain. It doesn't hurt, but it has been known to kind of trigger incredibly vivid memories. And it's specific to, and that if they go back to that same place again and trigger that point, then it releases the same memory. So there would be an indication that there is something stored in your brain. But what's fascinating is we actually only use a very small percentage of our brain. So our brains are underused. So what we would call genius is actually just a better use of the same instrument that we've all got. And it's about how you make use of that brain and how you make use of that knowledge, information, and whatever. But the biggest thing that affects, or I think one of the biggest things that affects how we link into the brain, is our emotional state. And it's kind of weird, because our emotions can be triggered before we even think about something. So it isn't just a stimulus response. It's as though it's in a way as though in many ways we know what's coming before it comes, and our nerves are already, and our body's already on alert and set and ready to go for it. It is so it's fascinating, because you can just argue so many ways about where are our memories stored, where are our emotions stored. Now, I've been doing some work recently and looking upon a book. It's called The Emotions Code. And I have found, and now I was originally introduced to the Emotions Code when I was doing the energy alignment method. And we've spoken about the energy alignment method before, and we've used the energy alignment method to enable us to release anxiety. Now, if you're not sure about that, if you're curious and want to find out more, I would suggest that you go back to the earlier podcasts where we did that. Or if you want to find out more and you can't find the podcast, please feel free to message me on Wendy Elliot on Facebook or Messenger. And if you notice, the spelling of Elliot is E, 1 E, 1 L, 1 I, 1 O, 1 T. So it's Elliot, 1 L, 1 T. I didn't realise when I chose the name how many different ways there were of spelling it. So going back to the energy codes. And the energy codes use the central meridian, which is part and parcel of Chinese medicine. So we all know that we've got meridians. We all know that we have different meridians, and you've heard of acupuncture. And when the acupuncturist sticks needles into, very fine needles, I have to say, that you can hardly feel them when they go in, and along these meridians, that then stimulates what we call the chi flow throughout the body. And there is one central meridian that's like the, I think of him as the conductor that manages and links in and transmits to all of the other meridians, and that is the central meridian. Now, when we've done Qigong, and when I've spoken to you about doing the Qigong and the Qigong breathing, what we always do is we put the tip of the tongue at the back of the 2 front teeth. And the reason that we do this is in doing that, we are sealing and connecting this central meridian that goes up, over, round, comes back up and back up central. So it's like in a big circle. And by connecting the tip of the tongue to the top of at the back of the 2 front teeth, we're actually connecting that meridian in whole. So the emotions code uses the stimulation of that meridian to help to get rid of trapped emotions. Now, well, you go, and we all have, I would say we all have emotions that are trapped within our bodies. What's interesting is within the energy code, he identifies specific emotions and the area in which that emotion is generated. So I can't remember off part, but it's kind of gallbladder and liver are related to the release of anger. Now, it may you may be feeling anger, and it's that area that it comes from, but it can settle then within any area of your body. And if that emotion becomes trapped, what it does is it's because all emotion is energy in motion. So it is an energetic blockage then within your body. And that energetic blockage, if left and not resolved over time, can create an area where there is where it becomes either painful, or where an illness originates, or where the organ that's related to it starts having problems. And wherever it's located, and it's absolutely fascinating that if we release it, I couldn't get over how simple the actual technique was, because if you're doing it for yourself, you literally release the emotion with this notion. You do have some work to do beforehand, and there are very specific emotional, what I'd call, what do they call it when it's, I don't want to use the word stereotype, archetypes, yeah. So the doctor who discovered this, he was a chiropractor, and I find it fascinating how many people who discover these energetic systems are chiropractors. So this gentleman was a chiropractor. Joe Dispenza was a chiropractor, and they work so closely with the energetics as well as the physical. And what he identified was 5, 10, 60 different archetypal emotions related specifically to the 6 different channels of the areas of flow that come with Chinese medicine. And then each of these 6 areas is then broken down into 10 emotions. And you identify which is the particular emotion that is ready to be released using a simple process, and then you release it using the next simple process. Excuse me. And I've been doing this for the last 4 days now. So I've not been doing it very long, but it's so intriguing for what are the emotions that come up, and then how I felt since I've been doing it. So given that I wrote a book on anxiety, at times I've always had this sense of indecisiveness, this not sure whether I was making the right decision, whether it was a sense of uncertainty. And having released, and I have released quite a few I have released quite a few of these trapped emotions, and some I know where they came from, some I don't, because it didn't tell me that I needed to, because I use this way, a kinesiology assessment tool to get the answers in yes or no terms. And I feel so much more. My grandson used the words "peace at last" for the book, for me to put in the book that I wrote. And it is kind of bizarre that I've got this internal sense of balance, sense of calmness, sense of peace since I have been releasing those trapped emotions. So the next book, I think, given that I've already done kind of 9 different ways for releasing anxiety, within the next one, I will certainly be giving people instructions for how to complete the energy codes. And I am seriously considering, but don't know yet because I need to just allow my thoughts to process a little longer, as to whether I become a practitioner of this, because it's so simple, uh, because it's so profound in its results. So, but at the moment, I'm only talking about myself. So I'm now at a stage where, as a practitioner, having learnt it from the auditory, the book that he's written, and followed the guidance and instructions, and anybody can do that. If you just look up the emotions code, it does really help you to do that. It's quite because I'm doing such long driving at the moment, it's giving me an opportunity to catch up on my reading per se, which is actually somebody reading to me, because I use the audiobooks and listen to them while I'm driving rather than having the radio on. And I would just recommend the energy code to anybody. And I'm seriously considering becoming a practitioner in the energy code because of its results. So we have, it says you can use it on animals. And my sister has a little poodle, and her little poodle gave birth to one little puppy, which is highly unusual. And they say that it causes separation anxiety and all sorts of things within the poodle. And they've been having a little bit of difficulty in training him. He's over a year now. He's called Cole. He's got this lovely black shaggy coat. He's absolutely adorable. And Linda's daughter Harriet is the proud owner of Cole now. But because of his anxieties and because of his tendencies, it can be a bit snappy, it can be whatever. So next time when I come back, I will be sharing with you what could be, how we proceeded with practicing the energy code on the poodle. And if it's successful, you never know, I could have a whole new career as an animal therapist. It's not likely that, by the way, because I much prefer working with humans. But that's what I'm going to be having a go at. Now, we're coming up towards the end of the podcast. It is my time. I am away on holiday for the next 2 weeks, so I won't be back with you. And I'm hoping Steve's listening to this, but I know he's busy having his care package. Let me have a look at the diary, and I'll be texting this to Steve when we've done. So I will not be back now until the 3rd of November. So remember the 3rd of November. And I am looking forward to it. I will let you know what happens where our little Cole, our little dog, goes. And if any of you do have any questions about my book, it is called Me and My Worry Monster. It is a book that that tells you my story and some of the aspects that I've had about it. It's called about my experiences, to get the teeth straight, my experiences with anxiety. And it also covers the 9 different tools that can be used for you to be able to take back control and not allow anxiety to win. And I've used every single one of those tools at some point. the same as I'm now using the emotions code right now, that I can then, so I wouldn't recommend to anyone something that I had used that didn't work for me. Now, there are lots of other tools out there, and there are other tools that other people will have used that work for them, but didn't work for me. And I mean, it'd be silly for me to teach you something that didn't work for me, because then I wouldn't have the faith in it. And it's about that passing on that knowledge and that faith in what we know. So I do hope that what I've been talking about has made sense for you. I do hope that gives you some idea about what the emotions code is, and that it'll give you the chance to go and have a look for it. But if you want to find out 9 very simple methods for helping to relieve anxiety, then please do go to Amazon. Look up Wendy Elliot as the author. Remembering it's ELIOT, 1L, 1T. And my book is called Me and My Worry Monster, and 9 Tools for Releasing Anxiety. I've had some amazing reviews from that. In fact, the best review I've had was, I got a message from my niece this morning, and let me have a look. I'll read it to you. I'm right here. Wrong one. It's in a different section. It's just typical that, isn't it? That the ones that you look for, they're not in the ones that are doing it. So let's have a look. It is Linda and Harriet. Where have they gone? Oh, forget it, Wendy. If you can't find it, it's not fair on your listeners and your viewers. But essentially, Harriet, after reading my book and having read the story and thought how beautiful it was, Harriet is an incredibly, incredibly creative person, and has always said that she wanted to write a book. And her mission is to write fantasy books. And for years, she's just kind of kept putting it on the back shelf, And then she sent me this message, and she said, Auntie Wendy, from the woman who has gone to bed tonight, she went to bed the night before, with a kind of message to her unconscious to say, send me more details about the main character. She had an incredibly lucid dream, and then she woke up and did the writing of it and the outline of it all about 4 o'clock in the morning, which I'm sure her husband was absolutely thrilled about. And then she just said to me, and thank you so much, because it was you doing your book that has awakened my interest in once again doing this, and that she wouldn't have done it or be doing it now if I hadn't written my book. So I know for sure that my book has changed at least one person's life. And I think that's something to be very quietly proud about. In fact, it touches me to my soul. So that's the end of this week. I didn't think I'd managed to fill it, but we've had a little knowledge, we've had a little information, we've had little chats, and I do look forward to seeing you on the 3rd of November, when we'll be doing questions and answers about my book. If you want to do some more questions about the book, then please feel free to go to Amazon. It is still only 99 pence on Kindle, so that you can get all of that wonderful knowledge and information for just 99p. I look forward to joining you again on the 3rd of November, and I'll say good night. Take care. Sleep well. It's been a joy. Thank you. Bye-bye.